Hey, I'm Rich, and welcome to Rich Reviews Reviews, a channel where I scour review sites for the best and worst reviews of films, products, services, and anything else with a rating so you don't have to. In today's installment, we take a look at Mortal Kombat, the eagerly anticipated, massively hyped spring 2021 release, based on the super successful video game franchise that first hit arcades and consoles way back in 1992. Hardcore MK fans, my girlfriend very much included in that list, have been waiting 26 years since the release of the lovable 1995 live-action original, which was adored by fans, but rated mediocre at best by critics and those not yet familiar with the lore. It hasn't aged particularly well, but the writers did a great job plugging the gaps between fight scenes that fans were longing to see. The majority of characters from the first couple of games featured in some way, and there were numerous little nods to levels, sound effects, fighting moves, and fatalities. The acting was also fine, with Christopher Lambert adding some flair in his role as Thunder God and Defender of Earthrealm Raiden. Quick note here on pronunciation before anyone jumps on me in the comments. I've spent far too much time researching this dude. If we go with the Japanese, it's Raiden. In the games and American culture, it's Raiden. No one seems willing to give up their side of the argument, so if his name crops up again, I'm merging both options and butchering it so no one is happy. Seems like the best compromise. Anyway, a couple of years later we were treated to a sequel in the form of Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It wasn't good. I watched this on VHS when I was around 12 years old, maybe 3 years after release. As a huge fan of the games at that point, I loved it. But even then I realised it was pretty bad by movie making standards. Everything was worse than the original. The plot was more chaotic, characters were introduced, seemingly for the sake of it. The try-hard CGI effects, as you can see here, fell short of the mark, and the acting was more forced. The actress who played Sonya was replaced, which is also kind of annoying if you happen to watch them back to back. Fun side note though, apparently we could have been treated to Cameron Diaz in the original had she not injured her wrist while training for the role. It's not surprising that we didn't get a trilogy given the reception this film received. There were however a few more attempts at converting the games into watchable media. Mortal Kombat Conquest aired as a 22-part TV series in 1998, set as a prequel to the first movie and marketed as a martial arts action series. The producers tried appealing to a broader demographic than just MK fans, mostly by including as many hot actresses in tiny outfits as possible. Ownership changed hands midway through, pun not intended, and the show began to air after wrestling broadcasts, which made it fairly popular. Not popular enough though, and fans were left with a cliffhanger ending that will never be resolved. There's also the MK Legends Scorpion's Revenge from 2020 that was genuinely, how do I say this, really well liked, focusing on the rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero while throwing in a bunch of plot that made sense within the MK universe. The producers really hit the spot with this one. So, we're up to date. How did this kind of new, kind of remake fare? Just above average it seems. IMDb producing a solid 6.3, so far at least, and Rotten Tomatoes coming in at 55%. I have a feeling it's going to drop though. The Red Band trailer, at time of speaking, is at 14 million views, which is a frankly insane number. It's fair to say that fans were so eager for content that almost anything better than a catastrophe would have made them happy. My inner data nerd wants to come out and play. Here's the breakdown of review scores on IMDb. As you can see, the scores cluster around 6 or 7, which, having seen the film myself, feels pretty fair. That 10 column is a bit misleading though. Some fans clearly went straight in and left a 10 because a Mortal Kombat film was released and the words "get over here" were uttered. Trust me, we're going to see a few of those reviews. As the HBO Max subscribers start to pile in, having run out of other shows to binge watch, I'd expect to shift down towards the 5s and 6s. Enough history and data analysis. Let's begin reviewing some reviews. Before we step any further, obvious spoiler alert. These are reviews. People will point things out about the plot, they'll likely ruin the ending, they'll also screw up spelling and grammar considerably, which, is a different kind of spoiler. Don't say you haven't been warned. We start with someone who's clearly a fan of Mortal Kombat, but not a fan of maths or English. bloody! Mortal Kombat is the first horror martial arts movie. My god, this movie is insane. The trailer alone is enough to give it a 10. In fact, I am rating it 20 out of 10. An all caps title with 5 exclamation marks. Strange way to start for sure. Then an opening line that's simply untrue. For a start, I don't quite know where the horror comes in, but even going with a loose definition and forgiving that part, surely a reviewer so excited by this concept is aware that there's an original movie. Then, an unironic use of dis, a variant I haven't heard, let alone seen in writing, since my time in school back in the late 90s. More exclamation marks and a lowercase I pale into insignificance. Then, having proudly displayed their English skills, we are treated to the logic of giving the trailer a 10 out of 10 and then doubling the score for the feature itself. I don't hate it when people throw in a figurative 11 out of 10 to make a statement, but this is throwing all sense of rating scales out the window, and that just can't be allowed. I'll give this a 3 out of 10, because we've only just started, and I fear things could get worse. Continuing the theme of all caps titles, we move on to this fan. You know I'm going to have to do an impression here, I just can't help myself.
Flawless victory.
It's violent and gory like the game. It's a beautiful adaptation of the game. The fights are amazing and straight hour of the game. The actors literally embodied their characters. It's a treat for everyone. I had few small issues with the movie. First, the movie was a bit fast-paced. Second, few of the dialogues could have been better. But overall the movie was awesome. Can't wait for the sequel. Well, we've marginally improved in comparison to the first review. The all-caps title makes sense this time, as well as being so satisfying to say out loud. The review content itself is decent too. It's just overshadowed by some terrible mistakes. Lack of apostrophes in the first 2 "it's", even though they managed to get the third one correct. Adding an E in gory, a forgivable typo of out, figurative use of literally, weird spacing before a colon, a sentence screwed up by the omission of a word, some random capitalization. I have to go middling. 5 out of 10. Seems we've jumped to the other end of the rating spectrum for this MK fan. Disrespect to MK lore. Imagine a Lord of the Rings movie without the One Ring, or Harry Potter movie without magic. They literally made a Mortal Kombat movie without Mortal Kombat. And who the hell is Cole Young? Newbie kills one of the thowest fighter in Sec. Liu Kang and Raiden writing was so lame, they didn't do anything to the story. There is no point making Cole and Hanzo relative. Story and dialogues were cheesy. You know, not too bad. A simple typo of toughest, and the sentence structure isn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, but there are certainly some positives. Good inclusion of the spoilers warning, accurate use of literally, short, mostly sharp sentences making independent points. Yeah, pretty good. 7 out of 10. Oh, and their gripes about Cole Young, the brand new protagonist, they're a recurring theme. I struggle to find more than a handful of reviewers who were positive about the character. You can even sense the fear in the comments section of the YouTube trailer that this guy would single-handedly ruin the experience for the true fan. Looks like that kind of happened. Well, these scores are yo-yoing. Back up to a 9 here. I enjoyed the modern take on the storyline. You don't get to witness the tournament itself, but instead witness Shang Tsung try to sabotage the tournament by attacking the champions of the Earth Realm before the tournament begins. It's a great way to set up a sequel that would include the tournament and more exciting characters. Props to the guy who played Liu Kang, just how I imagine the greatest tournament champion to be portrayed. Raiden is also a highlight, and surprisingly Kano. Jax has a great storyline, and this movie also sets up a great eternal feud between Sub-Zero and Scorpion. What is it with this trend of random capitalization? Common mistake of not realizing storyline is one word, but that's fine in the grand scheme of things. A double-typed A, one lowercase I again, typo or misspelling of Lou, but otherwise solid work. 8 seems fair. Okay, after a couple of good efforts, it looks like we're due some trash. Some YouTuber made this movie? Again, I'm asking. Some YouTuber made this movie. Previous movie was better. Surely new graphics are good, but I like former cast more, especially Lord Raiden. Trails off. This really reads as though someone is having a conversation with themselves and just noting it down as a reference for later. Have some yellow and red. Same old mistakes we've seen before. Also pretty bold to equate a film with a $50 million budget to something a YouTuber could create. Fan-made work can be pretty great. See this beautiful meme for proof. But we're not reviewing The Room here. We'll save that bad boy for a future installment. 2 out of 10, and I'm being generous. Right. I can already see some red flags. I'll try my best to get through this with minimal sighing. Extremely boring. Bad acting. Third-class movie. Perfect example of bad movie. Overacting. Nonsense dialogue presentation. Stupid laughable dresses. And extremely boring. Media is always paid when an expensive movie is directed to show it as awesome movie, and same is here. Not a single scene looks original. Background music don't even match scene. Actors are D-. Don't waste money just in case you are going to see it on BBO Max and planning to pay HBO just for it. Did I miss the memo where we're all supposed to leave spaces before punctuation marks? What is happening here? I could honestly mark the whole thing in red and yellow. It reads horribly. There are mistakes everywhere. Hold up. There's also a spoilers warning. But nothing they've written about could even be considered a spoiler. Oh, let's just move on and pretend this doesn't exist. Oh yeah, a rating. 1 out of 10, because there's a somewhat valid point in there somewhere about media critics being bought by the film industry. At least I think there is. Oh my, we've found someone rating this a 2 out of 5. That's far more nuanced than usual. People say it was made for the fans, but I'm not sure what fans they're referring to. Shallow characters, a boring story, decent action, and a failure to respect the source material result in a mediocre but mildly entertaining film. Also, MK9, 10, and 11 all have better stories and better written characters than this movie. This is well written. Genuinely, I'm pleasantly surprised. I have a 9, unnamed reviewer. You've earned it. Right then. It can only get worse, I imagine. Horrifically bad. About 30 minutes I was that bored I nearly left the cinema, but forced myself to sit through the entire movie. It was terrible. Not a single redeeming feature. Even the special effects were pretty poor. Maybe not. I mean, not well written, but no huge glaring mistakes. Stop. 4? 4 out of 10? 4 out of 10. For something horrifically bad that you forced yourself to sit through. I really want to know what could possibly inspire this reviewer to rate something lower. Would they have to watch the movie while their parents were tortured in the corner of the room? Is this a positive personality trait, or is there something seriously wrong here? I'm in shock. 11 out of 10, because apparently rating systems no longer need to make sense. Okay, final review. Bring me back some hope. I was not able to make it in time and can't get a refund. Words fail me. Yep, that's enough for today. The 0 is coming out for this train wreck. Well, that was a fun one. But before you click on whatever's next in YouTube's all-knowing down the rabbit hole algorithm, please like, subscribe, and leave your suggestions for things to review in the comments below. It really helps me out trying to grow this new channel and bring you more of this type of stuff. I've been Rich Reviewing Reviews. Have a great day.